All In 2024 was an absolutely beautiful show, minus a certain bad debut, which we're going to talk about later in the video, but goddamn, I have a lot to say about that. But besides all of that, AEW comes back once again with another great stadium show. Not as good as last year's show, but it was still, in my opinion, a really solid show. So today, we're going to be going through every single match and rate them 1 to 5 stars. And obviously you can disagree with my ratings, but I feel like my ratings are probably good enough. Pac and the Blackpool Combat Club defeated the Patriarchy, Bang Bang Gang, and the House of Black. This was a great way to start off the show. A bunch of crazy spots, and the crowd was like really into this. And I love how Christian Cage suddenly left the match, and it was all part of his plan, like, oh, everyone's taken out? Okay, I'll come back in the match and win it. But, you know, that failed. And everyone in the English crowd really wanted Pac to get his moment because he was not on the show last year, and you know, now they wanted their fellow Englishman to win the match this year at All In, and he did. Him and Claudio and Wheeler Yuta won the Trios Championship, so you know, good stuff. Great way to open the show. I would give this match 4 stars. I feel like it was a great showcase for what the men can do in the ring. So and it had a lot of funny comedic bits, mostly with the Patriarchy, with Christian and Luchasaurus, but you know, it's fine. And for some reason he's called Kill Switch now, and that really weirded me out because the crowd kept shouting Luchasaurus. They kept chanting that at Kill Switch, so I'm just gonna call him Luchasaurus. Wikipedia calls him Luchasaurus, so I'm gonna stick to that as well. Next up, Mariah May defeated Toni Storm to become the new Women's World Champion. I predicted that, and I did not know much about the story, honestly, but I knew just enough to know that this has been like an absolute mess. Like, I saw a good amount of clips, and I just got nothing from it. But I'm sad to know that it's probably going to continue now, because I didn't know that Mariah May was the heel in this thing, and Toni Storm was the babyface. I thought it was the other way around. And plus, you know, knowing that Toni was the champion for a while, I mean, I thought that, you know, the reign was going to come to an end, and the rivalry was going to come to an end, but no, apparently it's still going to go on, I think. But hey, Mariah May is the champion. I called that. And I'd also give this match 4 stars. I love how the crowd was like really into, again, another fellow English, you know, Toni Storm, you know, cheering her on and, you know, wanting her to win the title. I mean, she's not really English like that. She's like, I think she's Australian, but still like one of their kind, I guess, you know. And they really wanted her to win that, and she didn't, unfortunately, but still, good match in my opinion. Now this is when the show drags down a little bit in quality, but it's not all that bad. We had Chris Jericho versus Hook for the FTW title. I think it was pretty obvious that Hook had to win this because, you know, it's the title that his dad made famous. You know, he had to win that thing back from Chris Jericho, who is now calling himself the Learning Tree, and he had a live performance just like last year. Last year he played Judas, and this year he played, I guess it's a song from Fozzy called The Learning Tree, but it's okay, you know. And the match itself was not really that special, honestly, but at least Hook had his moment, unlike last year where he was relegated to the pre-show with Jack Perry, you know, the infamous match there. So anyway, not that bad of a match. I'd probably give it like 3.25 stars. Not something I'm going to rewatch anytime soon, honestly. Next up, we had the Young Bucks versus FTR versus the Acclaimed in a match for the World Tag Team titles. And this was kind of generic to me. I hate when matches are nothing but flips, okay? And there were too many during this match that it kind of just like dragged me out. It also didn't help that the crowd were not really into this as much as they should have been. And I know I'm starting to sound like Dave Meltzer saying that I prioritize crowds, but for me, when I see that a show is taking place outside of America, I expect the crowds to, like, you know, go all in, and they did later on in the show. We'll get to that later, but it also doesn't help that the matches got better as the show went on. So this was like a weak point in the show. It's definitely not the worst match, but it's just a weak point. And the Young Bucks retain, so, you know, Yay, more of the new elites running AEW. So, whatever. I'm gonna give this match 3 stars. Not really my cup of tea, honestly. Now, this is when the show starts to get better. We had the Casino Gauntlet, which apparently is like a battle royal similar to like a Royal Rumble, but instead of throwing your opponent out of the top rope, the first person to pin somebody is the winner of the match. So, yeah, a bit of an interesting concept. And we had a lot of cool surprises. We had Mark Briscoe, and we had Christian Cage coming back once again. And, you know, we had, what's the commentator's name? Nigel McGuinness. He went out of commentary. He was commentating the Tony versus Mariah match. He went out of commentary, and he went into the match. But also, we had the debut of Ricochet. Yeah, Ricochet is in AEW now. And that was probably one of the weakest points of the show. It's not that Ricochet debuted and did his cool stunts. It wasn't any of that. It's the fact that he didn't win the match. You could have cemented him as a top player in AEW immediately if you had him win this match. You know, everyone in London would have went crazy. They went crazy for his entrance and all his moves, but that silence went down for him as the entrance kept going, and then Christian Cage won the match. So, you know, it was a bit of a fumble, honestly. And that's the one thing that drags this match down a little bit for me. Because if it wasn't for this, I'd give this match like over 4 stars maybe, but I'm going to give this match 3 3/4. A really good concept, a lot of cool entrances, but, you know, the winner just didn't feel right for me. But it was for an AEW World Title opportunity, so, you know, I can't blame Christian Cage for wanting to take advantage of that thing. So, and this is where it gets really fun. We have MJF versus Will Ospreay for the now called American Championship. I have yet to watch their first match on Dynamite, where it was like an hour long, where MJF won the championship. But I have to rewatch that. But this match itself was really good. I love how the crowd were really into Will Ospreay. You know, their fellow Englishman wanting to see him win the championship and revert it back to the international title. And MJF is once again showing that he is one of the best young heels in the game right now. Up there with people like Dominic Mysterio and Braun Breaker. You know, getting insane heat from the English crowd. And he's also like he sold incredibly well during this match. And Will Ospreay fighting back and fighting back and fighting back, and then eventually getting the win. It was just crazy, dude. And you know, he got the old title back. It's now the international title again. So no complaints there. Great stuff. It's just this close to perfection in my opinion. I'm gonna give this 4 3/4. This was very good stuff. Next up, we have the worst match on the show. It was Mercedes Moné versus Britt Baker, DMD, for the TBS title. Moné got a special entrance, and Britt Baker just didn't even care. Honestly, like, this match was just not it. Mercedes is a great wrestler, so is Britt Baker, but I feel like they just don't click for some reason, honestly. Which is a shame because I felt like their promos in the build up to this match were not that bad, honestly. But for some reason, they just didn't click here, and it was very annoying to watch this match, honestly. At least I got like my prediction right for Mercedes retaining, but you know, it's whatever. If you want to watch a show like from start to finish, this is the one match where if you're a hardcore AEW fan, even you have to skip this match, dude. I'm gonna give this 2 3/4. This was not really good. Next we have Jack Perry taking on Darby Allin in a coffin match, and I feel like there's nothing else to say about this match. It was just, you know, just fine, you know. It was just nothing that really stood out to me in this match personally. And I feel like if there was something there, it would have been much better. But, you know, Darby Allin was once again flying everywhere. And you have Jack Perry retaining the title. But then Sting makes his comeback. And, that was cool to see. The crowd that's singing Metallica, so you'll have to see that. But this match was it was not bad, but it was also definitely not anything of a masterpiece. I'd give this like maybe 3.5, honestly. Not like, I thought this was going to be much better, but it was a bit of a disappointment in my eyes. And finally, the main event. Bryan Danielson versus Swerve Strickland for the world title. The crowd singing the final countdown was just generational, man. Whenever crowds sing like that, it's just amazing. And Swerve getting a live performance down to the ring. It was just very solid entrances. And then when they got into the ring for like 25 minutes, they just went crazy, dude. And I will say this. The best Bryan is the underdog Bryan, the one that does not stand down and the one that keeps fighting back. That's the Bryan we got at WrestleMania 30, and that same Bryan was here, and he did a phenomenal job in this thing, man. Like, Bryan is honestly a contender for top 5 best technical wrestlers of all time. Honestly, that's how good he is, even this late into his career. And, I mean, this match was so emotionally driven. Like, you had Bryan's family in the front row, and his daughter crying when Bryan is bleeding, and then his daughter, like, just jumping up and down, like, when Bryan is fighting back. And then Swerve taps out, and Bryan is the new world champion, and he celebrates with his family in the ring. And then the rest of the Blackpool Combat Club is in there, and it was just a beautiful moment, man. Like, this match will go down as by far one of the best matches in AEW history, in my opinion. I wouldn't say it's as good as possibly Bryan and Ospreay, but it's definitely up there. It's definitely a match of the year candidate for sure. Up there with like Bryan and Ospreay, and Bayley versus Io, and of course Roman and Cody too. I'd give this match a solid 5 stars. This was top tier perfection in my opinion. Nothing wrong with this match. I was emotionally driven. The crowd obviously were, every time Bryan kicked out, they were chanting yes, 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 yes. It's like they wanted Bryan to win this, and if they didn't, they were going to throw tomatoes in the ring. And they were probably going to find bits and pieces from that American flag that had MJF's face on it and throw those bits into the ring. And that's saying something, because Swerve is American. And Bryan is also an American. But, it's whatever, the crowd were really into this. And so was I, honestly. This match was just chef's kiss. And that's my review for All In. A very good show. I'd give this a solid 8 out of 10, honestly. And I feel like this is a show that we'll be talking about for a while. We're still talking about the show of last year, and we're also going to be talking about this one. And next year they'll be going to Texas. I feel like that's a bad decision. I feel like they're only doing it because the crowd was not as big as last year. They had 80,000 last year. This year, I think they only had 50,000 in the stands. So obviously they want to downsize. But to be fair, there are other stadiums in London itself, not just England, but London itself, that have those capacities of like 50,000 people. Like, you can, I don't know any off the top of my head right now, but I'll probably show you some images if I can find any. Like, there are a lot of like stadiums that are like the perfect size for an all-in show. But either way, this show was fantastic, and I hope Texas next year brings the heat. Come on, guys, you gotta bring it, man. But yeah, that's it from me, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Deuces, ooses.